Hello and welcome to episode 3 of the Gangrene Against the World podcast. I'm Allan Simon. The New York Jets have played their first preseason game of 2025 against the Green Bay Packers at Lambeau Field, and the Jets made a statement. As much of a statement as you could possibly make in week 1 of the preseason. Preseason games don't matter. The results of the game don't matter. But what does matter is what Aaron Glenn, the new head coach of the New York Jets, has been saying day after day after day at training camp. That is talking about intensity and making sure the Jets showed up to play. You know, we've heard this adage for anyone who played sports their entire lives, practice like you play, right? And the Jets brought an intensity to training camp day 1 that we saw on the field against the Packers. And listen, the Packers are a playoff team. They are playing a shell defense against Justin Fields on that first drive. This game mattered a lot more to the Jets and Jets fan because Jets fans want to be able to believe that we're seeing something different this year with this new regime. And Jets players, they're fighting for jobs right now. And this is a team that's trying to find and form an identity. And we can see that starting to crystallize in front of us in that game last night. You know, the starters playing clearly mattered. It was important that they play. And we're seeing across the league that a lot more starters are playing in the preseason. But for the Jets specifically, imagine the commentary and imagine the noise around this team if Justin Fields just sat on the sideline the entire game. We did not see any starters. We did not see Breece Hall. And we would just be left to be talking about what we've seen in camp over the last couple of weeks, which has been sporadic play from Justin Fields. But what we've been saying the entire time is training camp won't show you Justin Fields at his best, because when he's at his best, he is running around, he is scrambling, he's making plays with his feet, he is taking broken plays and turning them into something. It's exactly what he did on that one drive. And that one drive alone, a 10-play, 79-yard drive, in which journeyman tight end Andrew Beck has 2 great catches and Breece Hall has a couple of nice carries, and, you know, things look good on the offensive line and they're really attacking in the trenches. And then, of course, it's all ended with a play on 3rd and 5 by Justin Fields. The play breaks down and he scrambles and scores a 13-yard touchdown. When it's all said and done, that play will mean nothing in the stat books in 2025. But the meaning behind that was so big, because what it did is it wiped away the negativity. It wiped away the narrative from the first 2 weeks of training camp. And now this is the foundation that Justin Fields and the Jets can build upon. And that's really exciting. I'm excited to have a week of practice where even if Justin Fields in the internal scrimmage goes 2 of 10 with 2 interceptions, we won't have to freak out. And there won't be panic, because we know he's working through things and trying to develop himself as a passer. But in game situations, we know he's going to step in and play, hopefully at the top of his game and at the top of what Justin Fields' ceiling can be. He was very accurate. He looked composed. You know, the Packers are playing a shell defense. He's dinking and dunking and finding folks where they need to be found. But that one drive, hopefully when we look back at the end of the season and the Jets are a 9-win, 10-win team and they surprised a lot of people, we can say, hey, playing the starters mattered in this game. And really everyone who stepped on the field looked really sharp. And I think there is something important to point out with this too, that when you say you're going to act a certain way and then you do it, that builds trust with your team. And it also builds trust with your fan base. And for Aaron Glenn, when you set a standard of what you expect from your players and then you show that in a real game, that's going to build accountability. So not only did they show up hitting and they show up playing fast, they looked really sharp. There were a couple of sloppy penalties, especially early on. There was some madness on the field with Michael Clemens, who, you know, is basically fighting a guy on the 3rd possession of the first game of the preseason, and he got benched. That's accountability. That's what I want to see from Aaron Glenn. And he is looking in the eyes of players who are making bad mistakes that are mental mistakes, you know, late hits on the sideline, things that can really hurt you in the regular season. And he made it very clear that is not okay. This is not Rob Saleh hugging a guy on the sideline after making a boneheaded mistake. And listen, there's a place in the NFL for that. If you're a winning team, the way that Robert Saleh operated certainly works. As a defensive coordinator, it's definitely worked, and we saw it work for him. But as we always see in the NFL, when you have a softer, more lighthearted head coach, and that doesn't work, you then bring in someone who's a little bit tougher. And players seem to really want to play for Aaron Glenn, and we saw that last night. We saw, 50, 60 players get on the field who really wanted to play. We saw guys who wanted to be out there and make a difference. And then, you have people fighting for starting positions like Jay Tufele and Leonard Taylor making really big plays. That was really exciting to see. And Aaron Glenn told us we were going to see something, and then we saw it. And that means I trust Aaron Glenn. Now, a lot can go wrong. Again, this is week 1 of the preseason. The same way we don't want to overreact to a couple bad weeks of camp, we do not want to overreact to, one meaningless game. But it did feel like there was more there. The players seem to really trust Aaron Glenn. The players seem to be responding really well to what they're saying. And this is what we want to see for the rest of camp and for the rest of the preseason. Clean, sharp football on the field that will hopefully lead to a team that is ready to play week 1 against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Because the Pittsburgh Steelers are not going to play Aaron Rodgers in the preseason. We all saw how sloppy Aaron Rodgers was last year, coming out of camp with the Jets. And listen, he was injured, and then, he doesn't get a lot of time leading up to training camp, and then he plays a little bit, but there's not much there, and then they start off really slow, and, Robert Saleh gets fired after a few weeks. My expectation is a team like the Steelers are not going to come out really sharp, and that's an opportunity to steal a win. The teams that are playing their players in the preseason, I think, have a great opportunity to take wins against rusty teams, probably the playoff teams who say, hey, I'm not going to risk getting my starters hurt, and then the Jets can come in those first couple of weeks and steal a victory. So I just feel great overall about how the Jets looked. Preseason or not, how many games do you remember the Jets outgaining an opponent 403 to 188 yards, right? They had 4 sacks. They finished the first half with 2 takeaways that led to 10 points. Those are things you want to see happen in the regular season. And again, Tufele and Leonard Taylor, they're the 2 standouts to me. They are the 2, when there's a lot of noise about bringing in a veteran, and although I would still support it because I don't want to see Michael Clemens play every snap, those are 2 guys who said, no, you can trust me. Jay Tufele has come in and said how this locker room feels different and how the energy of this team feels different. And then you see him play and you think, well, maybe that's something to do with him. And maybe that's something to do with his presence in the locker room. So he's feeling it, but he's also omitting it to the team. And it's turned into something very positive. Again, seeing him hand the ball to Aaron Glenn after scoring it, it was all just, everything felt nice in that game yesterday. Other things that really stood out to me was Will McDonald wearing number 9 looks really sharp. That spin move looks elite. He was unblockable in that game, completely unblockable. And if we continue with the framework of how does this team win 9 games, it includes Will McDonald taking the next step up and becoming a truly elite pass rusher. And so far, so good with that. You also saw all 3 running backs that are going to be playing this year get involved. Isaiah Davis had a wonderful moment on the Justin Fields run that went viral, where Fields is scrambling and he is selling that he's about to take a pass into the back of the end zone and brings the defender with him. It is an amazing thing to watch on tape. It's just a little thing. That guy cares. That guy is going to be a part of this team. Jets Twitter certainly loved it. I know the teammates probably really enjoyed it. I'm guessing in film review, that's going to get a lot of props and a lot of laughs. But it's the little things. It's a guy who's not part of the play, playing through the whistle and trying to make a difference the best he can. That really matters. I also thought it was nice to see Adrian Martinez and Brady Cook look sharp too. And again, everyone who stepped on the field looked ready to go. Adrian Martinez, 11 of 16, 152 and a touchdown. Brady Cook, 6 of 8 for 62 yards. Both those guys did not look like 3rd, 4th stringers who were trying to see if they fit in the NFL. Brady Cook had a really illustrious career at Missouri. He goes undrafted. He threw for over 9,000 yards in college. The dude can sling it, but can he sling it at an NFL level? Well, he looked very comfortable. Martinez, who I think could be the 3rd quarterback on this team behind Tyrod Taylor, 11 of 16, 152 touchdowns. That's good stuff. That's what you want to see. And in camp, he's looked really sharp. We've seen a lot of highlights of him throwing the deep ball, and overall, he looked really, really good. So after all this said, what now? Well, I want to continue to see the sharpness in the game against the Giants. I hate the preseason game against the Giants, whether it's Mark Sanchez being put in by Rex Ryan because Rex Ryan wants to prove something and win the Snoopy Bowl, and then Mark Sanchez, hurts his shoulder and rips it apart, and he's probably never the same. Chad Pennington getting hurt in a preseason game against the Giants. bad things happen in this game. I do want to see the starters play another possession. I want to see them build off of what they did this game, keep that momentum so they stay sharp. But also what I want to see next go around this week is I want to see what this defensive line is really going to shape up to be. I'm interested to see what the depth chart's going to look like. Does Michael Clemens take a step back on the depth chart because he did not play well and then he gets benched for acting like an idiot, which is something he's done most of his career. The guy cannot control his emotions on the field. When he's playing 15 snaps a game, great. He is a beast of a human being. When he was on special teams running down, probably scaring the lights out of these special teamers who have to block him, but play in, play out, when he's going to get the majority of snaps, he is an enormous liability. So I'm curious to see how they act with that. I still think you can bring in a veteran defensive lineman. I still think you can bring in a veteran wide receiver. With the injuries that are happening across the preseason, as this preseason week 1 comes to an end, those guys are going to start to get scooped up. But overall, Aaron Glenn is sending us a message. He's telling us what he expects from his team. The team so far has delivered on it. That's a really good sign. Don't want to get too high or too low based off of one game in the preseason, but it feels so much better that this was the end result, right? It feels so much better that this wasn't a dud of a game. They didn't come out looking flat. They didn't commit a million penalties. They came out looking crystal clear. They came out looking so sharp and ready to play, and that's the mentality we want to see moving forward. Well, coming up this week, we have Giants week 2 of the preseason. We should have a really nice guest coming along to talk about that Giants game next Saturday. And overall, looking forward to another week of camp and practice, and the vibes I feel like will be a whole lot better than they were coming into this game against the Packers. You've been listening to the Gangrene Against the World podcast. I'm Allan Simon. Thank you so much for joining us.